Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Ultimate Human Experience Podcast. You already know who it is. It's your girl, Rashida, aka Righteous Sun. And on today's episode, I'm really blessed and super excited for this chat and this episode. We are going to be talking all about our first awakening and our transformation, the confusions and the myths of our healing journey. We welcome today the wonderful and beautiful practitioners of the Hira Collective. So we have a huge panel today. We have Eliana, Anvita, Linda, and of course, our visionary and founder, Rima. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And remember to share with family and friends and those who you feel will vibe with this message. With that being said, let's get into it. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining on this episode. I'm really excited to have everyone here. This is our first time on the Ultimate Human Experience podcast where we're having multiple people. It's like a panel discussion, and I love that because I think the more the merrier. And when you have more voices, you get to amplify messages and as well as just share your own personal experiences. And today we have some amazing people. So before we begin, we would love to get to know everyone and their gifts and what they are going to be bringing to the Hira Collective. So we have wonderful practitioners, and I would love for you all to take the time to introduce yourself. We will start with Aliana, and then we'll go with Anvita, and then we'll go with Linda.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much to Rima and Rashida for holding this space. My name, yes, is Aliana. I'm a transformational chakra coach. So I use modalities of Reiki, mindfulness, and movement in my practice. Um, yes, so I help others on following their inner calling and wisdom to live a limitless life.
Thank you to Rima and Rashida for holding the panel and this awesome discussion. I'm Anvita. I'm a transitional somatic coach who helps women navigate life transitions with ease, pleasure, and flow.
Thank you, Rima and Rashida, for this space, and lovely to connect with everyone here today. So my name is Linda, and I am a psychosomatic practitioner. And in the work that I do is I work very closely with individuals in the transformation journey, bridging the connection between mental work, somatic work, nervous system work, and energy work. So I connect all three to help people from inner transformation to outer transformation.
All right, folks, I'm Rima. I'm the visionary and founder of the Hira Collective. But most importantly, I am a spiritual being having a human experience. And I love the opportunity to share and hear this human experience, the ultimate human experience today, and be surrounded by magic in human form. As much as I receive the gratitude from everyone here, I am so eternally grateful for all of you for believing in the vision of the Hira Collective, for being part of the Hira Collective so that we can collectively raise consciousness and ultimately heal the world as we share our stories. And I'm so excited for us to share our stories today and share connections that we don't feel alone. And we know that we're all together in this beautiful journey together. I want to really move the spotlight onto Rashida, who is also a practitioner on the Hira Collective and has incredible gifts to share. And so, Rashida, we'd love to hear what you do and what your magic is, aside from this beautiful platform that you have.
Thank you. I was thinking that I was just hearing everybody. I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like, I love to always just sit like this and like listen to everybody else and what they bring to the table. So I'm like, wow, I want to know more. But yes, my name is Rashida. I am a Reiki healer, a Reiki master. My passion and love is psychic work. And my purpose and my goal is to help others to discover and rediscover themselves through the spirit world and just allow them to uncover that along their journey. I'm just here to hold space for them and to just guide them. But ultimately, I want them to feel empowered enough to make those choices and decisions that are needed to be made, and hopefully just uplift them. That's what I do. So yes, thank you everyone for sharing your gifts. I'm just blessed to even be in this space to be able to like hear your side of things, because I really do believe that this topic that we're talking about of transformation and spiritual awakening is something that so many people talk about more now than they did before. In especially now, it's like now we have a spiritual community, but like honestly, back in the day, there was no community. So now that we're able to create and have communities, and it's expanding to other people who are just new to their journey and new to their spiritual awakening. There's so many different like levels to it. And I think a lot of people think that it might look fluffy and roses and clouds. I think a lot of people think that. And then you realize that there's so much more to that. There is, I would say, like the dark side to it as well, that uncovering more of who you are, maybe things that have been hidden for so long that now needs to come to the surface and then be released. And I think that is also a part of that spiritual awakening. And I would love to have the opportunity today to hear from all of you what that looked like for you and how you were able to navigate through that to even get to the point of doing the work that you do and being able to share those gifts with others and help others along their journey. So let's get into it. I'm more of, you can keep your mics open, you can have the discussion, don't feel shy to share. If you feel you want to jump on and share, yeah, like this is what this is about. It's a conversation.
I'm gonna poke a little bit, okay? Because I know we've had some conversations. Linda, I'd love for you to share your story. You know, Linda and I had a great conversation as she was brought on to be part of the Hira Collective and applied, and we had our conversation. And yeah, I don't know if you'd want to share your story of like your spiritual awakening.
Yeah. I mean, wow, what a journey. So in terms of my, transformation journey in of itself, it's quite interesting. I tell people it's not been linear in the sense of I've always from childhood had this calling of knowing I'm meant to help people along their healing. And it was very intuitively a draw, whether it was the education I leaned into, the work that I did, no matter what I did, I was brought into stepping into the journey of supporting other individuals through whatever tumultuous stuff that they were dealing with. And long and short-winded way of saying that my transformation journey was an invitation to continually face up with my truth. And, in that invitation, a lot of it was asking myself, what truly is, if I'm honest with myself, what is truly meant for me aside from what has been imprinted on me from childhood and from my youth and from what I've been told is the right way of doing things. And that's been a lot of, I would say, early part of my adulthood. It was a lot of unwinding and unchurning of setting aside, okay, these imprints of what I've been told of how I need to stand up as a woman and my education. And what's fascinating is I started in the consulting industry, and it moved me into working with leaders and CEOs through their transformation. Like I actually was a transformation consultant. And I mean, there's a whole story, a wax story on how I got into that, because people go, how did you get into transformation consulting? And what I genuinely found is behind the scene, I was helping these big leaders deal with massive change, whether it was, implementing a massive program, undertaking a new merger and acquisition, whatever it was. But continually I was confronted with, but I have to help the individual as a human being, the leader, right? even though the systemized program and the constitution of the consulting really focused on the practices, it was always coming back to the human. And funny enough, before that, I was on the journey to going into medical school. And I actually stopped my journey because I did not feel aligned to the way in which conventional Western medicine helps people, right? It was very prescriptive. Sorry.
Can we poke into that a little bit? So
Yeah.
what was it about that? Like, what was that awakening or that like thing that made you feel like, nope?
Yeah, it was interesting because this is like when I was 19, 20 years old. And it was fascinating because continually when I was going along that journey and practicing for pre-med, I was constantly confronted with, pharmaceutical protocol. And I always leaned into, but isn't there a behavioral element that we can hone in on without bringing in the pharmaceutical element? And it was such a dissonance because it was such a heavy emphasis on, well, no matter what, you still have to lean on the pharmaceutical trend, right? And it was such, the more and more I leaned into it, the more it created such a strong dissonance in myself. And intuitively, I knew I could feel that if I went in that journey, I would not be happy, nor would it be authentic to me to continually go, well, I know this person, if we went behaviorally, took a little more time, I could help this person, but I am bound to prescribing them something because of the quota systems and all this. And I'm talking about 18 years ago, right? I don't know if it's improved along that time, but I look back at the journey and I say, wow, it's, I kind of take a stance on myself to say, it's amazing. I followed my intuition back then. And I knew at some point life would take me back to the human element. I still, majored in psychology and I went into the business route and did all these things in grad school, but it always brought me back to the human element, but I knew it was going to do it in a different way. So now current day, like looking back at my journey, it's been always an incremental confrontation of my truth and understanding that my truth was an unraveling. It wasn't a clear, oh, when I was 16 years old, I knew what my truth was going to be till the day I die. No, it's more so a stepping stone of just honoring, okay, what feels right to me at this point in my life and honoring that. And there were times where it was so hard because it was in such dissonance to what I was doing. But then as I've noticed, as I've kind of honored that truth and that calling, it's become easier. And, and this is kind of an element that I hone in on with my clients, as I say, if you feel a lot of tension and restriction in your life and resistance, typically it's because the truth has been speaking to you, but it's been so suppressed. And in the journey of transformation, it is not necessarily just a linear path per se. It's going to be calling you continually to own these truth elements and to honor it. And it's iterative and it's going to be bumpy, but the more you honor it, the smoother it will be. And so my journey has been that, and I echo that in the work that I do with my clients, and also owning the dark parts, which are not bad, but we all have these elements of light and dark within us. And it's really changing our relationship to all of these facets of us because those two elements are what make us whole. And so that is a very, very high level, quick summary of my journey along the transformation. And it's still ongoing, right? I'm always an avid student. I'm continuing to maneuver my transformation journey and evolve as a human being. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Honestly, like I I can relate to a lot of that. That that thing of like it's not linear, there's no one path, and yet at the same time we've been told that perhaps from like our parents or those that came before society that like you were only supposed to do one thing or it's only supposed to be one way and you have to go this way, and if you don't then you're going to fail and you won't succeed. And then that really like puts pressure on us to say that if well we don't do it this way then we won't be loved, or people will look at us a certain way. How do you guys, Anvita and Linda, like how do you relate to that in some way as well?
Yeah, a lot of what Linda and Rashida, what you're talking about with like the non-linearity resonates with me. I believe that like transformation is never complete because I find myself like year after year. So my spiritual awakening was about when I was 23, right around my 23rd birthday, fresh out of college. I resonated a lot of what Linda was talking about. I kind of went down like, for me, it was biomedical engineering, which was very like prescribed. It was like the prescribed path. It wasn't what my path, there was like a dissonance. I felt a lot of that tension, especially, coming out 18, college was like the first opportunity for me to like define myself. I kind of had that space and freedom. And I think that is what created some space for my soul to start speaking to me. And at that time, I didn't even really tune into like a higher power. It kind of took a while for me to listen to that voice. And so going back to what I was talking about, I think it's like there's a cyclical nature to transformation. I find myself like going back to themes and coming back to like parts of myself and digging deeper and deeper and deeper. And I think it's a work in progress. The soul is, there's like an inherent wholeness, I believe, in the soul that rests since I was a baby. And the human vessel is just a vessel of expression, through behaviors, through words. There's so many modalities. And I think that's the cool thing when you meet practitioners, you see all these modalities, but there's so many different ways, right? There's an infiniteness there. So that's kind of my perspective on kind of this, like, there's a structure. So I think there's like a linearity and a cyclical kind of component to that's where I like maybe I'm digging into a certain theme. So there's like that structure pole kind of, but it's like a different layer. So I think that's really, it lends itself in a very multidimensional way where you can like, interpret so many different things different ways, and you can get pings from so many different people. And that's what I think is so cool about this universe.
So I just want to throw out there then. So, we've talked about like this transformation and healing, and like it's like this iterative process that we go to, which is reflected in the logo of the Hira Collective, which is the butterfly, as well as this idea of like, but we're already whole and complete, which also is reflected in the Hira logo, which is the diamond. And so I'm curious, maybe you want to jump in, Eliana, but like, do you feel like there are parts of you that like are us or part of this transformation journey or this spiritual awakening that maybe you've gone through that you feel like I've completely transformed or I've like completed my healing journey? Like, is that, I think that when we come on this journey, I think there's like this like myth, right? Rashida, like we were talking about this earlier, right? Like there's like this myth of like, well, then there's an end point, there's a completion. But Anvita, you just talked about this like cycle, but linear. And it's like, yeah, I just want to make sure people feel seen when it's like, you're not alone. There's no like, anyways, I just want to throw it to Aliana where, if you want to share something around that.
Yes, I'm just loving every moment of this conversation. Before coming on here, I was super nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I was just like, imposter syndrome is creeping in so heavily. But then I had a moment as we began the prayer and invocation of just like, oh wow, this is the type of transformation that I have been calling into my life, the type of change, the type of community, the type of conversations and opportunities. Like this is transformative right now in my life, I would say. So that was a moment I had. Also hearing just the type of occupations we all have, it's so comforting to know that, wow, look at all these beautiful women of color, just want to put that out there, who are doing it, coming back to our ancestral purposes, which is really what, in the beginning, we held spaces for each other as women to heal, to grow, to go through this transformation process. I want to bring it to, I know this is but our cycle as a woman, I want to bring it to that because for me, I think that is a huge spiritual awakening in itself when you're a young girl coming into that huge change in your body because it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Ah, got boobs, got all these things. Yeah, it's like nobody, when you're younger, I don't know how it is, but some are not, it's not really spoken about in the school. In it's like maybe one conversation about it of like the biological process, but not the emotional, the mental, the physical. Oops, sorry, I apologize, I'm getting cold there. Like, yeah, the entirety of this, what is like the spiritual aspect that you transformation that you go through as you grow as a woman. I mean, I am still very young, I have to say, on this transformational journey. But yeah, like that idea of transformation, what is the definition of transformation? I would say it's the evolution of the change, like change is inevitable. So the transformative process, like you were saying, as Hira Collective, it's the butterfly. It's like going from a caterpillar to a beautiful butterfly where you feel so ugly as you're younger. Actually, who knows? Maybe caterpillars are like, I'm the flyest thing out here. Who knows what they feel like? Um, but knowing that symbolism of you have to crawl before you spread your wings to fly. And I'm kind of going on a tangent.
Oh,
I had
love
things
it.
to
Love the
say
tangent. Love the tangent.
on
That's what
the
it's all about.
spiritual journey. Yeah, but I think I was reflecting, even this is a huge, great, like those questions before we jumped in were such a beautiful reflective moment for me, because I would say I went from my biggest moment, so many things. I want to go off of what Linda, Rashida, and Anvita said, like touching on the topic of when you're younger, like what society has kind of put onto you, and also the connectivity, that the truth and coming back to yourself, like no matter at what age, like you are destined for something, and you were predestined to show up in this world with a purpose. And when I was even reflecting with the aunt yesterday, how in different generations there were different purposes of the generation, so as we see in time right now, like my little sister, I'm just giving an example, she's 18. She is the most woke, the most brave, the most courageous, the most truth speaking woman I have ever met, like in my family. And undoing that shedding of each generation is that spiritual awakening, because it's giving that allowing for the voice to be heard, because in our mother lineage, it's like over time it was like silence, 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 until now it's like, oh, we can speak, oh, we can share, oh, we can come back to what we're meant to do here on this earth as women, which is to nurture, to grow, to hold space, to heal. Yeah, I don't know, I'm going off again, but that
Oh,
for
no,
me.
actually, yeah, no, I love everything you're sharing. I'd actually, it's reminding me of a conversation Rashida was sharing with me about your daughters. And just like, you are one of three sisters, right? But then how like you're taking that and it's like how it's changing how you raise your daughters and like their sisterhood. I don't know if you want to touch on that, but it's just making me think, Elena, what you were talking about, like a sisterhood, right? And how it does change generation to generation. And I don't know, just want to throw it to you. I don't know if you
Yeah,
want.
I totally agree. As you were saying that, Aliana, I was thinking, yeah, I get excited when I see young people. So when I hear you talk about your sister who's 18, I get excited for my daughters who I believe, with the work that I do and how I express myself in ways that like my mom and my grandmother and before that didn't have the opportunity to do that. I now see in them the things that I'm like, ooh, like I was never like that as a kid. I mean, I grew up in the 80s, and like what you said, like every generation was different. And if those that grew up before, as my sisters grew up in like the 60s and the 70s, the way they grew up and how they had to live was so different than how I grew up in the 80s. And so how I expressed myself, just how I moved through that time was very different. And yet I still had to move in those same ways as they were teaching me, because they were like, well, it's just better, Rashida, that you just follow the rules and just zip it because that's what they were taught. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense to me. So as you're saying that, it makes sense to me now that I'm like, oh yeah, every generation comes in on a different time, on a different vibration to help elevate and to bring something new to the table. So as I see my kids who have, I have a 14-year-old, I have a 12-year-old, I have like a 4-year-old. I see them being able to express themselves in ways that I'm giving them space to have their voice, which then excites me because I'm like, oh, if you are feeling the need to express yourself now at this age, when you're 18, when you're 19, when you're in your 20s, I can't even wait to see what you share with the world. I can't wait for you to discover yourself. And even still, like, I even think about my son too. Like, I'm giving him space to do what I didn't have the opportunity to do, which is just to discover himself and give him a space to do that and say, like, you know what? I'm just here as your guide. Like, I don't want to interfere in some way. I want you to figure it out, let the wheels go, and then come to me when you do. And I love it because, like, he'll come to me when all the other girls are asleep and say, like, yeah, I'm a little nervous. Like, he's getting ready to graduate. Like, what does that look like for him? And I'm just giving him, I'm just like, almost just kind of clearing the way, but for him to say whether he wants to go, whether he wants to pivot this way or pivot that way. So yeah, I think it's amazing that we're in a time where we are giving the opportunity to transform in a way that just feels like, yeah, I can do this in any which way, and I don't have to feel this feeling of judgment.
I love that. I just want to honor each of us right now, and that, you know, our journey and our iterative transformation allows for us then to create that space for the generation ahead of us, and that we collectively are raising that vibration, right? It's, yes, each generation is joining another vibration, but we're part of that. Like, we are collectively creating that in our homes, for our children, in our schools, whatever capacity in which we exist, we can actually raise that consciousness. And it makes me think of what Maya Angelou says when she says, we stand as one, but we come as 10,000. I am a product of the vibration that existed when I was brought into the world as a result of the generations before me, so that I'm able to then increase the vibrations for those ahead of me. And I just wanted to, like, share that and honor each of us and our being, and the fact that this friction and this transformation that felt, that dissonance that we were talking about earlier, is so that we can raise the vibration and for the generations ahead of us. I want to, like, throw it out. Linda, I'd love to hear, like, what you had to say about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, just, stemming off from what you said, Rima and Rashida, around there's this collective element, a generational element. It kind of ties back definitely to another element of transformation that I hone in on. And I find a lot in the transformation realm, there's an emphasis on the individualistic transformation journey, and there isn't enough emphasis on the community element. And I think now there is this light of awareness that is being garnered amongst the masses, recognizing that the healing journey is not meant to be individualistic. And this is in honor of, I know in studying my ancestors of East African descent, there was an emphasis on community and the essence of healing, the power of healing in that. And I love that the masses are slowly recognizing this component, because it allows us to honor the generation that we're born in. It allows us to honor the collective that we're being pulled into. So look around you, your friends, the community that you're pulled into. That is not a coincidence. As you iteratively, like, start to heal yourself more deeply, you will notice certain people around you for a reason, right? And so, yeah, I just think that there's more conversation that has to be had around this community element of transformation. And I think even from a North American perspective, it's just so underrepresented, right? Like, there's not enough representation and discussion around this. And I'm just like, oh man, we need to talk more about this. And I think this really ties to the generational element, the year people are born into, these young children who are just so bold and courageous in the way they kind of come in. I mean, I think that's their soul calling them in for a particular era for a reason. And so that's what I aspire to kind of lean in more into, is calling in deeper elements of building more community to honor this element of healing. Is like, you don't need to do it alone. You're not meant to do it alone as a human being. You're meant to also lean into your community. as well. So I just kind of wanted to touch in on that as
Thank you. Yeah, I think that really just that encompasses what the Hira Collective is about too, is about community. I'll be honest, like I being a part of this, I love this because I'm busy. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I always add this in, but like being a mom is it's like a full-time job. And then having to have your business on the side and doing the things that you do, that to have moments like this to connect with other women is so important. And like what you said, like in generations before, in especially in those which was of color in communities of Nigerian descent, Ghana, that like that community of women that would get together and look after each other and sit and commune together. It's necessary. But like what you said, in North America, we split up. I've had so many women from different cultures that come here, and I'm like, how do you like it? And they're like, I like it, but after they have their child in their own country, the women gather to take care of them, to nurture them, to allow them to take the time to heal. And over here, you get a year, and in some places, you don't, and you got to go right back into work. And wow, that is a lot to take in when you are becoming a new mom. You're transforming, just like what Aliana said, is that like you go from a girl to a woman and then you transition again. You're constantly shifting. Then you go to a mom. That's something totally new and different that you have to explore and understand and learn to embrace. And that's where a lot of people feel alone, is that there's this new change that's happening. It's one that should be celebrated, and yet a lot of us tend to hide away and not share those pieces, and we do it alone. So the fact that we have spaces like this to be able to share and to be able to just feel safe enough to say, yeah, like I'm going through this, and people are coming to say it's okay, like even though we're not in the same space, you still feel this energetic hug that you're like, yes, it's going to be okay. You can continue on this journey. You have time to rest to continue. I know Aliana wanted to say something as well.
Yes, it was actually just on the point of you sharing about your parenting journey. I think it was the idea, something you said that was so really struck, was that you were like, I'm guiding. I'm not like telling him what to do. Like it's that freedom of choice. I also noticed when I was working with kids, they come into this world with their own knowings. And I think all of us as women, like right now at this age of our life, wherever we are, chose to go back to that, to those callings, to those intuitive, like Linda said, intuitively, like she just knew that wasn't the right choice for her, or this wasn't. And we constantly made choices in our life from that intelligence, which is source, connecting back, and in that connecting to each other. So Rashida, like hands off, I want to just also congratulate you and celebrate all of us for whatever we're doing, because like you said, I am not into motherhood yet, but 4 children, girl, like wow. I'm trying to do this business thing on my own right now, and I'm like up till 5 a.m. doing all these things. I'm like, how do people keep up with this?
But that is a
Yeah.
birth. But that is being a mother and and birthing something, right, Aliana? And I want to honor that, right? Like you may not have 4 children, and Rashida, you are a queen in that, absolutely. But Aliana, you are too, right? You're birthing a business to support other people, and I really want to honor that about you. I don't want to make you feel small on that. Like, it's hard, and that's the thing, right? Like you birthing this business, just like Linda said, we're not meant to do these things alone. We're meant to do this collectively. We're meant to support each other. But this idea of like, we need to do it individually because we're in competition with one another, or like this capitalist way of living, right? We're individuals and we have individual problems and therefore individual successes. That's super problematic. And what we're doing here, is we're decolonizing that, we're dismantling that, and we're moving towards a collectivist way of being, which is honoring our ancestral roots, which is honoring the way that we're meant to be in community and supporting each other. And as businesses and whatever that we're birthing and we're evolving into, that's what the Hira Collective is all about, is to support each other and lift as we climb, right? And really hold that space, whether it be in motherhood or in our businesses or stepping into our purpose and evolving, is to support one another, right? And I really wanted, sorry, I jumped in there, but I wanted to take a moment to honor you, Aliana. You may not have birthed a child, and perhaps that's in your journey or not, but you are birthing a business and birthing a way of bringing people together and supporting their healing. So
Thank you, Rima. Thank you,
Yeah,
Rima. And yeah, I just want to also say that this is I know we haven't met for a long time as well. Like recently, this connection has been made. But I have to say, just in this call alone and just being connected to you women, the vibration is felt. I'm in a whole different country, y'all. And I feel the love, I feel the support, and I just want to give thanks for that. Yeah.
thank you. Yes, that is it. Like we're all in different parts of the world and we're still able to energetically find connection. And I think that's amazing. I wanted to touch on Anvita because I feel like
Yeah.
she's got some substance to share here after she has been like listening to everything. So, what are your thoughts about what we just talked about? But also, like, you're also a young person as well. And how is your transformation? I know you talked about it in terms of like your awakening, but now that you are connected to other practitioners and you are building your business, how has that like transitioned for you from saying like I'm just like all of us, we're going to do this or we've been told to live this way or do things this way, but you decided to say like that doesn't feel right for me. I want to shift into something that feels more authentic to my heart. And I want to be able to give that back to others and to share. So, yeah, I want to hear from Anvita.
Yeah, I'd love to again, it goes back to that like collectivist kind of transformation that's happening in the collective, right? Kind of going from like Remo was talking about, dismantling the harmful aspects of individualism. And I think that is where like I've taken my inspiration from, it's kind of like there's two aspects to it. There's like the shadow aspect of like you have to do things this way. And I even see this, I would say it's a shadow, it can be a shadow side of the collectivist community as well. Sometimes is there's these like structures that are sometimes we're told rather than guided, or like there's like that, almost a suppression rather than freedom. But then there's also like the side of inspiration, I would say, or the lighter side, where you kind of, I see it, and that's where I've taken, kind of shifted is like taking inspiration from things around me, like what resonates, right? Like what pings me. Someone said something like, oh, that resonates. That might be like a clue. It's like following like a little trail of like breadcrumbs. And like the inner voice to me is like the pink. It's like, that's for me, that's for me. And then I can like, it's almost like putting a puzzle piece or like a puzzle together, and trying in different pieces sometimes. Like a lot of I see as the iterative process of it is very experimental. It's like a child playing. We come in to the world. Children are so like such a beautiful example of this. If you just watch children like play on the playground and they just like explore things, like they'll go try the slide for a while, or they'll go to the swings, and then maybe they don't like the swings, so they'll go to the bars, and now they like the swings again. And that's kind of how I see building my journey. I don't see my purpose as something outside myself, but rather my energy. And it's going to be expressed in different ways. Like I've already tried on like 3 different careers within my 20s. I started out as an engineer, then I, migrated to business analytics, then I did human resources, which is where I'm now. And now I'm, building a business as a coach. I mean, that's 4 very different careers, and I'm just turned 30. Who knows what I'm going to do in the next decade? So, and I don't see purpose as a particular path. I think it's more of like my energy being expressed in different ways. I think everyone's purpose is their energy. And I think that right now I'm in a building phase where it's been a rebirthing phase. And I think one of the challenges with the rebirthing phase is that I feel like a beginner in everything. I'm like, sometimes I think, and this is a very capitalistic point of view, is like when you reach this position or in corporate, or when you reach like when even with a business, when you have like I don't know, a six-figure business, that's when you know, serve your purpose. That's a story that's often told. Like you have to get to a certain destination to be like purposeful or put something out meaningful. And I don't believe that. I think I'm seeing that in my rebirthing right now. I'm going through a big rebirth at 30, is that I'm like, I can always serve. I don't need to get a job to wait to serve. Like I'm always serving with my energy. And it's like, how can I serve? You know, that's something huge for me as a practitioner, is anchoring on something beyond myself, the service orientation, right? Even coming into this conversation, I'm thinking like, how can I serve y'all? How can I serve whoever's listening to this podcast, right? Not what do, you know, I see it as a very egoic kind of orientation, which is, again, capitalism and individualism really anchors on. And for me, coming back to my soul is like a service orientation. And that's what I love about collectivist communities, is they're thinking about how do I serve the community with what I have. And the other thing I really wanted to touch on that I was hearing over and over again is this like kind of this contrast between like I am enough versus building on I'm not enough. So like scarcity is really built on like there's always going to be a next level of expansion. No matter how where you are in life, there's always going to be another level that your soul wants to expand into. And I believe that's like a core part of fulfillment is expansion. So, but if we focus continuously on the gap, there can be this feeling of like, I am not enough, and continuously building from a place of I'm not enough. So I need more, I need more, I need to fix myself. Versus, and Rima was talking about this in terms of foundational, right? Rather than I am enough, I'm just extending that. And that is such a more fun, beautiful place to build from. And like each generation's doing that rather than like, oh, this generation's filling this gap. And I see this often in the media, especially in the States, living in the States, of like, oh, like, especially right now, it's like Gen Z, right? Gen Z is like the hot generation. Oh, they're filling this gap that like baby boomers didn't. But versus I want to see it as, okay, what did baby boomers bring? Then millennials, like what we're stacking. And what does each generation? And I would rather look at the world that way. And because that, again, that comes back to like, we're all inherently whole and complete. We're just tapping into deeper levels of expression and then shifting collective consciousness. But it doesn't mean that the collective consciousness 20 years ago wasn't enough. It was just different.
Thank you. I do this a lot. Yes, you're going to see that a lot, but thank you, because I first just want to say, like, thank you to everybody, because we're seeing this panel is different ages, different generations. What I love, and exactly what you said, is that, yeah, you know, the baby boomers would say, like, oh, these Gen Zs, and like, you know, Gen Z's like, oh, these baby boomers. And we go back and forth with that. But what I've learned, honestly, in the last 2 days, and what I am loving about this generation that is coming forward, is that they're just being open to receiving. They're not being, they don't feel, I'm sure you guys feel the pressure, but I also feel like it's something that's just like water off the back. And I love that. And I'm like, ooh, I don't know what I'm getting from it, but like I get this beautiful energy that comes from it, to say like, because honestly, I've always said this as I've learned, like I'm 42. And so I look at everybody who's younger than me and I say, I want to learn from you. I want to learn those things that, like, and you like what you said, like we learn from children. So we do learn from the younger generation as well as they learn from us. And it is like a whole collective, is that you guys are open to just saying, like, I'm trying to just figure this out. I know that, like, yeah, you know, maybe mom and dad, you wanted me to do this, but like, I want to try new things. I want to rebirth in everything that I'm doing. And I'm thinking, wow, like that's such a, like, honestly, we never thought that way. We weren't allowed to think that way, even if we did back in the day. So to hear you guys say, like, yeah, I tried this and I tried this and I tried this, but like at the end of the day, I'm just trying to understand me and how I can service others and be of service to others. Because in that way, it helps me to understand myself. It helps me to understand my wholeness and how I can continue to expand. I just wanted to say thank you for sharing that, and for everyone, the younger generation, to come in that way to give a different perspective. Like, that's a different way of looking at the world, but it's needed. I want to now add this piece in, and this is a question for all of you. You can chime in when you want to, but could you share, what would you share with the past version of yourself? Like, now that you are where you are, what would be something that you would share with the past version? And I'm going to add like another layer to it. What would you also share to others who are also transforming, but might be in a different place? Like, they might be feeling still like I'm alone. They might still feel like I still have to follow the rules. I still have to stay in these boxes because I'm accustomed to it. That's how I've been taught. What would be your advice and what would you share?
I have a thought on this that came up immediately. I would tell my past self and people maybe earlier in their journey of like, your opinion of yourself matters. Your opinion of yourself is your power. Like, that's what I would tell that version of myself, because I think what's beautiful about having so many collective voices out there is that there's a lot of places to get inspiration from. But I think sometimes I personally would forget to take inspiration from myself. I would forget to like come inwards and listen to like my connection with spirit, which is ultimately like the person that I would spend the most time with is myself. So I think if, and I would tell other people like intentionally create structures to listen to yourself, because I think that's sometimes missed and sometimes not taught. It's like, yeah, we have this powerful tool called intuition, but how do you tap into it? What is it? It's like it's a skill to build and it's sometimes missed. So I would go back and teach my younger self like how to like create intentional spaces, and these spaces like channeling, coming into the heart, setting intentions, like these spaces are really great for helping people, inviting them into their inner voice, which I think is one of the most powerful and missed voices sometimes.
I would say for in terms of my past self, what I would tell myself is to trust yourself. That is one thing along my journey. When I look back, I'm like, wow, I should have trusted myself. I was on point, but takes us on another path. And for anyone along the transformation journey where they feel isolated, alone, things feel tough, I would say, really take it upon yourself to get to know yourself, your true self, and not in isolation, but in community. And why I emphasize community is because you will garner reflections amongst others that you will never get alone. And that will be such a catalyst for you, figuring out why you are on the journey you're on, and supporting you to the other end of that cycle. And so that would be my advice. Yeah.
What I would tell my younger self, as I think I love that everybody's talking about speaking like trusting yourself and speaking your truth to yourself and not like letting other people, because it's so easy to get bombarded by the outside world. Um, I think the first thing I heard very loudly when that question was asked was, your faith is bigger than your fear. Like keeping your faith strong and believing in yourself, believing in that higher power, believing that it will all work out. And you may not know the how, but as long as you set that intention and you decide on what you want for yourself, it's going to happen. Yeah.
Thank you.
I love what all of you have shared. I think for me, what comes up in combination with everything that you've all shared, is while you're part of this, in this transformation, while you're in that dark space, when you're feeling isolated and all those, there's a sexiness that comes to like, oh, we're on this healing journey, but it's not always butterflies and diamonds, right? Like it is that wiggling out of that caterpillar. And my message would be to my past selves and everyone listening is have compassion for yourself. Like at each phase and each stage, you're doing the best you can in that phase. And along the way, we make choices and decisions that are not a reflection of who we are going to be later on, and have compassion for those versions of you and love for those versions of you. Because beating oneself up as we're continuing to evolve is harmful, and our spirit selves don't deserve to be treated with harm and violence. And it starts with how we treat ourselves, right? That's a form of self-love. So that would be I love that question. Thank you, Rashida.
Thank you. Everybody has shared something so amazing. I love taking little bits and pieces of the way that everybody sees it. I would say for myself, love yourself more, be gentle with yourself. And the biggest one is to trust, because so many times you might think, am I doing the right thing? Am I going in the right direction? Did I make the right choices? You've got so many outside voices that come in to say what they think you should do, what's the right thing, what's the wrong thing. And there is no wrong or right way. It's your way. And that is enough. So, yeah, that's what I would say to myself, my past version. That's what I would say to those who are going on their journey or new to their journey. I can't even thank, this is literally the first episode where we've had all these beautiful, this is like a huge panel. And I love listening back to these episodes because this gave so much substance. This gave so much wisdom. This actually also gave an opportunity for each one of you to shine your light and to give more, to help build relationship. Because when people listen to these episodes, they're listening, whether it's for the first time or over and over. And now they have an opportunity to even dive deeper into who you guys are, what you are going to be bringing to the Hira Collective, your gifts. Because truth, what I learned is that we do it through community, right? Just like Linda said, is that we do things through community, and that's how we grow and learn. And the fact that people will have the opportunity to hear each one of your voices and to connect even deeper to your story and what you bring to the table, I really believe will just help to flourish and help for you all to do the work that you continuously do. So I just want to say thank you for joining. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for just thank you. Rima, did you have anything else that you wanted to say? Did anybody else have anything else they wanted to say?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you for sharing with the Hira Collective. So if you feel like you're on your own transformational journey and are seeking, maybe if you're stepping into, this is for our listeners, if you're stepping into perhaps a role as a practitioner, like much like Anvita was talking about, she's like in human resources and now she's shifting towards being a coach. If that's you, if you're looking for community and support and a network of others to collaborate and be loved on by and love with, the Hira Collective, we have our membership still open for practitioners who want to join before we launch. The Hira Collective platform launches in 6 weeks. The practitioners who you've heard from today will be available on the platform for you to book services with, for those of you who felt that their stories and connections and want them to be supporting you on your journey. And that does not mean that you're a practitioner, but just someone who's starting to awaken and needs some support on your journey. Please book a session with either of them, as well as join our community. We will have community where you can be part of that and feel supported on and not isolated, because like we've all shared, this is not an individual journey. We're meant to do this together. Please like, subscribe. We do have all our exclusive updates will be shared by email. So please join our email list. If you are a practitioner, please email at info@thehiracollective.com. And we look forward to being of service to all of you.
Thank you, Rima. Thank you, Rima. Thank you, Eliana. Thank you, Anvita. Thank you, Linda. This is the Ultimate Human Experience Podcast. We are out. Peace.